Hello, everybody. How are you today? Okay, so this is our next class. I know that we didn't have the Zoom reunion, okay? But that doesn't mean that we're not gonna do any work this week. You have your homework, the exercises uploaded onto the Servo Escolar platform, okay? Also, this video is going to cover the grammar that you need to know to do those exercises. So for this video, first we have to read something for copyright purposes. A partir de este momento, iniciamos la grabación de la sesión de clases en Zoom. El uso de este video será única y exclusivamente para fines académicos. Ninguna persona puede usar las imágenes, audio o información que aquí se comparten con fines ajenos a la clase. Los derechos son propiedad del Instituto Oriente AC. Este espacio se rige bajo las normas del Manual de Convivencia del Colegio. Okay, so with that in mind, let's start with our class. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is take a very brief look at what we have in Unit 8. Let's see. We have it right here. Now, for the grammar that we have in Unit 8, we will take a look at some aspects that we have in past tense, okay, some general aspects and a few details. So to start this off, we will take a very quick look at was and were. Now, these two verbs are the past tense of the verb be. Now, if you recall, the verb be in present is conjugated to the forms is, am, are. In this case, we have was and were for the past. The difference between these two, if any of you thought of that question, is that was is used when we talk about I, he, she, and it. Okay, we can say I was, he was, she was, or it was. Okay, were is for all the other pronouns. We say you were in both singular and plural form. We use, singular plural form. We use were also with we were, and they were. So we have you were, we were, they were. As I said, these two are the past simple. Okay, maybe I should have been more specific. They are the past simple of the verb be. Okay, and we use it to talk about situations in the past. Okay, everything that happened before this moment, and it is completed before this moment. So we have both positive and negative forms. Okay, let's take a look at positive. With the example, I was in a play on Saturday. My parents were in the audience. Okay, you know that in this case, a play is referring to a theatrical play, okay? You go to a theater and you see a play. For example, maybe Shakespeare. You see some kind of Shakespearean play. All right, so this is the positive form of was and were, okay? There's no change to any of these two verbs. But in negative form, we have a slight change. As in the example, my sister wasn't at school yesterday. Now, wasn't is different, okay? It's a little bit different. We have to pay attention at these differences, all right? So, in the form, as we said with the previous slide, okay, in positive, we have the positive form of the past simple of be being was or were, okay? And Here we have it visually, the use or the pronouns that are used with either of these two verbs or either of these two forms of the verb be. When we talk about I, he, she, it, we say was. When we say you, doesn't matter if we're talking about the singular you or the plural you, we and they are going to use were. Okay, so we can say I was late for school, or she was late for school, we were late for school, they were late for school. Okay, that's positive form. For negative, okay, for negative form, we have wasn't and weren't. Okay, they're, as I said previously, a bit different. Okay, with wasn't, all right, we will still talk as with was about the pronouns I, he, she, and it. All right, but this is the negative form. It's a contraction of was not. Remember, these contractions are not completely necessary all the time. They're fairly common, and we actually typically use it much more than we do the uncontracted form. But it's not a requirement to use it, especially not when you talk about complete sentences. Weren't has the same change. We put, or we add, I'm sorry, we add an N with an apostrophe and a T at the end, okay? Representing the contraction, or I'm sorry, it's the contraction representing were not. Again, the contraction is not necessary. And we use weren't for you, we, or they. In this case, we can say with a complete example, he wasn't at school yesterday. We weren't at school yesterday. It wasn't at school yesterday. Maybe we're talking about some kind of animal, a bird, maybe a dog. You weren't at school yesterday. For the questions and the short answers, okay? We're going to form these questions by using was and were plus the subject, okay? For example, we have up here, let's see, were you, and then after that you continue with the complement. Was he, was she, was it, and we continue with the complement. Were we, were they, and we continue with the complement. Okay, so check these complements out. We have, were you at the pool yesterday? Was it at the pool yesterday? Were they at the pool yesterday? Okay, those are the questions. We use was or were before the subject, in this case, the pronouns. Now, keep in mind that we can replace the pronouns with some personal name, person name, okay? Maybe with a noun, okay, which will take the place of a subject. For example, you can say, was it at the pool? Or you can say, was the bird or was the duck at the pool yesterday? Were they at the pool? Or you can say, were my friends at the pool, okay? You can represent these pronouns with other words, or you can do it backwards. These pronouns represent other words. Okay. For the answers, these are going to be short answers because we have yes or no questions. Were you at the pool yesterday? Yes, I was, or no, I wasn't. Was he at the pool yesterday? Yes, he was, or no, he wasn't. Was she at the pool yesterday? Yes, she was, or no, she wasn't. We can also say, were they at the pool yesterday? Yes, they were, no, they weren't. Okay? Now, something also that is important to remember is that when you want to convert, okay, you want to convert these questions to information questions, open questions, you have to do something very, very simple as with any other structure, I'm sorry, any other tense that we have in question form. We're going to simply add these WH question words at the beginning of the sentence. Okay, so you can say, maybe where were you at the pool yesterday, or sorry, where were you yesterday, or who were you with, etc. Okay, we're going to add these information, WH question words, at the beginning of the question if you want to transform it to open questions, to an open question. Now, the expressions that we have in simple past with was and were. Okay, we talk about things that happened and were completed before this moment. Okay, so we're going to talk about days previous to today. Okay, days that are gone by. For example, on Saturday, we're not talking about next weekend. No, we're talking about last weekend. Okay, on Saturday, last week, last weekend, yesterday, 2 days ago, at the weekend, or as we say in the United States, on the weekend. Okay, these are the expressions that we use, and we have other expressions. Okay, we're not going to limit ourselves to only these expressions that we have up on the screen. We have many other expressions. Okay, using last, using on at the beginning to express some time reference, some point in time that happened before this present moment. Okay, so let's practice. We have was and were. We're going to use these two to complete our ideas, our sentences. Okay, in number one, the weather was good. That's the example. Why did we put was? Okay, remember that the weather in this case is a thing. So technically, it could be represented with it. So that's why we say it was good. And then to be more specific, the weather was good. In number two, I. Well, we know that I always uses the form was. So I was at home. For number three, we have my best friends. Okay, it's not only one. You have maybe 2, 3, 4. You have more than one. Okay, so we're talking about many people. This can be represented with the pronoun they. Okay, now let's try to remember and bring to mind what they uses, or what form they use. Okay, or what form they uses. Okay, so they, the pronoun they, uses the form were. And there we have it. My best friends were on the internet. Number four, I. The same thing that we had with number two. I was happy. Number five, my family. Okay, we have a lot of people. My family and I. You include yourself, okay? You're not talking about different people. You're talking about a group with you and other people. So this can be represented with we. We uses the form were. My family and I were at the cinema. Okay, maybe this can be confusing because if you look at the pronoun immediately before were, you can see that it is I, and then maybe you're confused and say, why do we have I were and not I was? Well, the answer is you have to consider the complete subject. We are talking about the family and I, okay? It's not only I. You have a lot of people in a group, including yourself. Number six, our English teacher, okay? In your case, because of me, we're talking about he. In other cases, you could say she, but in this case, he was. Okay, our English teacher was, because our English teacher could be represented with he. Our English teacher was at school. Now let's write some questions. Okay, we're going to talk about, make these questions about when you were 6 years old. All right, as in number one, the question has already been formed for us as an example. What was your first teacher's name? Okay, so we're going to complete these with was and were only. Number two, who? Your best friends. Now the subject is your best friends. Before the subject, we have to put was and were. So we have who were your best friends. We have the verb be, were, in simple past, before the subject. The subject is your best friends. Who were your best friends? Number three, your hair, long or short. The subject is your hair. Okay, this can be represented with it. So with it, we're going to use the form was. And there we have it. Was your hair long or short? Okay, the subject is your hair. Remember that. How old your parents? How old were your parents? Okay, we have your parents is the subject. This can be represented with they. So we're going to use the form were before they. Or in this case, a specification, your parents, okay, has for its verb were. How old were your parents? In number five, the subject is an only child. An only child is not the subject. My mistake, sorry. No, we're talking about you. I didn't see the word before that. You is the subject, okay? We're talking to the person listening. We're talking to you directly, okay? Remember that you continues with were, you were. But in this case, because it is a question, we're not gonna say you were, we're gonna say were you. Were you an only child? Finally, we have your favorite food. In this case, yes, your favorite food is the subject, okay? Which could be represented with it. So we're going to use was, okay? Because remember, it was, or in this case, was it. And we have a specification. So we're going to say, was your favorite food? That comes like this. What was your favorite food? Now, for past simple, with all the rest of the verbs, okay? We're going to use the simple past to talk about completed actions in the past, okay? Now, we're not only talking about situations, we're also talking about actions. Completed actions, not something that is not finished, because in that case, we would have to use a different tense. With simple past, we can say things like, yesterday I went to the beach and swam in the sea. Went, swam, that's past tense, okay? In the evening, I ate dinner and watched TV. Ate, watched. Other examples of past tense, in this case, past simple. So, expressions that we use with these other verbs. We have on Saturday, last week, 2 days ago, yesterday, last weekend, at the weekend, or as we say in the United States, on the weekend. If you're confused, don't be. These are the same exact expressions that we have for was and were. There is no difference in the use of expressions because both was and were and the other verbs are in past. Everything that is in past is going to use these expressions, okay? Now, we have different forms for these verbs in simple past. We have regular verbs, okay, which to form the past simple use the verb with ed, okay? And this is the same for all persons, such as in the example, I hated it, you hated it, he hated it, she hated it hated it, we hated it, and they hated it, okay? It's the same for all persons. There is no change. And if the verb is regular, we use ed, all right? no third person singular changes. Okay, in past tense, we have no changes for he, she, or it. No. In the spelling, when you want to spell these verbs, you got to keep some things in mind. First of all, if a verb ends in Y, and you have to change the Y into an I before adding ED, okay? For example, study, that's ending in a Y, changes to studied, with the last bit being spelled IED. The Y was substituted for an I. But don't do this if there is a vowel before the Y. Now remember, a vowel is A, E, I, O, U. For example, play changes to played with the addition of ed at the end of the word and no other changes, okay? This is because we have a vowel before Y. In this case, the vowel is A, okay? We're not going to spell it played with A-I-D, all right? At the end, we're not going to make that change of the Y for an I because we have a vowel before the Y. If we have a verb that ends in a vowel, for example, O, and the consonant, for example, P or T, we have to double that consonant, such as in the example, stop into stopped. Okay, we have double P, E, D. All right, that's a change that we have to make. Last one, if a verb ends in L, we have to double the L, okay? But this is something that can be omitted in some verbs when we are using American English. Remember that for this course, we're technically learning, practicing, and using British English. That's why we have this rule of the double L. For example, travel changes into traveled, okay? It becomes traveled spelled with double L. That was for the regular verbs. Now, the irregular verbs, okay, that we have in simple past are many. And you have to learn these. There is no simple rule. There is no easy way to learn these irregular verbs. You just have to learn them. You have to technically memorize them. A lot of people don't like that word, but there is no way around it. Either you do it by practicing these verbs until you learn them by heart, that's memorization, okay? Or you study them the good old-fashioned way, just repeating verb after verb with its correct form in simple past. For example, break, broke, come, came, go, went, bring, brought, see, saw, eat, ate, write, wrote, can, could, speak, spoke, draw, drew, run, ran. Okay? And we have approximately 200 irregular verbs. But don't worry, okay? Don't worry. As we continue learning English, we're going to take a look at these verbs step by step, little by little, so that progressively you can learn these verbs without it being overwhelming. Okay, maybe it's not going to be a very difficult task because you learn, say, 4 new verbs, 5 new verbs with every new lesson. Okay, or possibly with every new unit. And at the end of all the units of all the levels that you're going to have at the school, you will have learned up to 200 or more, maybe 200 or more than 200 irregular verbs. So let's practice one last time. We have for number 1, which is the example, I went to the beach. Okay, went is the past of go. We made that change for you so that you can base yourselves on that and with it answer the other exercises. Number 2, I, and then we have travel. Remember, if your verb ends with L, double the L. So we have traveled with double L. I traveled there by, in my case, bus. Okay, for this exercise, we're talking about my great day out. We're talking about, well, in my case specifically, I am giving you some information about one of my vacations, which was very good, very fun, okay, and pleasant. Number 3, we're talking about people, so my wife, and then the past tense of come, came. That's irregular. My wife came with me. Number 4, the weather. Okay, now we have the verb be. We have to remember, is it was or were? The weather can be represented with it. That means we're going to use was. The weather was, it was, the weather was. Okay, the weather was pleasant, comfortable. Okay, it was good weather when I went to the beach, when I went on vacation. Number 5, we have, okay, that's an irregular verb. We had. Okay, and in my case, we had seafood, all right, for lunch, and we have another kind of food, beef, for dinner. Number 6, I, irregular verb alert, I took photos of, and then person, thing, or place. In my case, I took photos of the beach. Number 7, irregular verb again. I saw my family. Okay, this is a group of people, of persons that I visited, that I saw. So I saw my family. Number 8, I, and for this last example, we have another irregular verb. I bought Russian dolls, you know, those matrushkas, all right? So this is the practice that we have, and I hope that it was clear to all of you. If you have any questions, you know that next week on Tuesday, I will see you at 11:15 on the Servo Escolar platform, okay, on the chat room, okay? You can make all of your questions about things that seem confusing, either in the homework or in the video, okay? So I will see you then. Please do the homework that you have for this week. Do the homework. You have only 1 week to do it, so please get it done. And I'll see you next time.